I made a video about the first 4 episodes of season 4 of The Boys, and I could have articulated what I said a lot better and maybe thought out my points a little better. It was kind of very reactionary to the insane discourse around this season so far, in particular the first 3 episodes, as they dropped 3 episodes at the beginning of this season, kind of as a premiere to the season. They put 3 episodes out on Amazon Prime, and they weren't well received, and a lot of people are very, they take it as like somehow the show is entirely centered around dunking on right wingers, and then right wingers being disappointed by this is somehow an additional dunk, as in previous seasons the show also dunks on right wingers. The really hypocritical and hilarious part about this is that it also dunks on left wingers all of the time and consistently has, and especially in this fourth season, in the fourth episode. But even before that, as Sister Sage, this new character who's the smartest person who joins the Seven and helps Homelander to take over the country. The what how she does this is by separating people politically, ramping up political tensions, which were already there in previous seasons. As the political nonsense in this show, like they've been pushing Homelander as being Trump like, and his followers basically being Trump followers, which is really quite ridiculous, as it blatantly shows the differences. It's impossible for the viewer to not focus unless they're just so terminally left wing that they can't see reality, even though the show is like a superhero show and Homelander is like Superman, just this unstoppable superhero who's incredibly murderous, will like murder somebody at the drop of a dime and frequently does. As does hilariously one of the leaders of the Democratic Party in this show. But like Homelander isn't Donald Trump. He's not Hitler either. Um, Somebody even commented like, "Oh, I forget if it was on my video or on a comment thread on social media, but they're like, what? How can you compare Homelander to a Holocaust survivor? He's more like the Ubermensch." It's like, no, dude, what are you talking about? What in the world are you talking about? Like, yes, he is. He literally is that like Ubermensch, but it's how did he get there? He specifically himself, like, yeah, other people were tortured in thoughts, experiments, and stuff, but Homelander specifically has been tortured his entire childhood, even before they explain it in horrific detail and literally show you like somewhat in these like semi um very quick flashbacks that he's going in and out of in episode 4 of season 4. But even prior to that, he's mentioned being tortured his entire childhood, like experimented on. So I yeah, it's exactly like he is a survivor of the worst human experiments ever, as because he's a superhero, they tried to break him. They tried to end him in various ways. Which in episode 4 he specifically describes. And you can also, anyone with any kind of intelligence would understand that it goes far beyond that. That he's getting revenge on those people for specific instances of them torturing him. He probably if you collected those, right, it would maybe be a week worth of torture is the stuff so far that he's mentioned, maybe less. And that's only because he mentions being locked in for days, weeks, or months, really, I suppose, in this isolation room. So this person's entire childhood was being tortured and experimented on to insane levels that no human could comprehend, because only a superhero could survive the types of torture because they're making him into the Ubermensch, right? Into a superhero, into who he is. And they did that through horrific experimentation. But ultimately, what blows my mind is that Sister Sage, her entire plot line, what the main plot line of the season is that she is separating people based off politics. And this show has the seven frequently being on a literal film set as they are not real superheroes at all whatsoever. They are actors. There is a giant anti-Hollywood celebrity worship culture flat out in the show. That's a huge part of the show. Just like it would be insane for somebody to idolize Homelander, it would also be insane for somebody to idolize like Butcher or Starlight. As the moment that she has a skeleton exposed by Firecracker, she loses her mind. You could see it in her face before she even does anything. That her entire identity is destroyed. And think about who Starlight is, right? And I think it's specifically emphasized by the fact that they have the Starlight house. That Starlight in the show has become the Homelander of the left wing. And so just like Homelander would react negatively, Starlight reacts. She instantly, her face just changes. I mean, not really, since the actor has gotten so much like plastic surgery, her face can't really change, but like her eyes emote that through the plastic surgery. Sorry, no offense, and all the respect in the world to the actress. She never would have expected that this show would have taken off like it did. Like, she goes from being an absolute nobody to being a main actor in a really hit show. So if she clearly, her insecurities about her looks got to her and led to her getting a plastic surgery, and she probably shouldn't have. So people need to take it easy on her, because if your face was suddenly all over the world, like I think her name's Erin Moriarty your insecurities would probably manifest. Maybe not in the same way, but I mean, I couldn't imagine if I was suddenly as famous as being a like main actor on The Boys. But think about it. Think about how Starlight reacted when one skeleton in her closet, even one that within the context of the show is pretty meaningless. Like, the character Homelander has outright killed people on camera, has done pretty crazy stuff. It's like most of the other superhero characters in this show have been exposed for doing something far worse than what Starlight did, which was like blind a woman. It's the fact that she was dishonest about it, that she's a fake person, is why is specifically how the show is making it crystal clear that you shouldn't idolize her either, right? That neither side is specifically right. They both idolize people that they shouldn't, and create people into heroes who aren't necessarily actually heroes. Like, you should see people as people and not judge them by like their public persona. I feel like Newman in particular also demonstrates that. She's this like democratic leader. She's like the vice president or some crap in the show. But yeah, she's a murderous lunatic who pops people's heads off. Her political opponents, nope, you're just gone. I'm just gonna explode your head because I have the superpower to do so. And it's right out in the open in the show. Like, the show is constantly dunking on left-wingers. Like, how do you not see that the Seven are just superheroes? That they're actors. And who idolizes actors? Who idolizes Hollywood? Huh? Who's out there regurgitating what they hear from these late night talk shows and all this crap? Who's just as deep in the propaganda as the far right? It's the far left. So it's demented to me beyond belief that these left wingers think it's just, oh no, those dumb right wingers didn't know that the show was making fun of them. Now they do, and they're pissed. It's like, dude, the show's making fun of you just as much. And people, like I said in my other video, they're primarily frustrated that a ton of subplots have just been completely dropped. The fact that Frenchie and Kimiko in the previous season, they agreed to be friends, but clearly they have feelings for each other. They were like reluctant and sad to agree to be friends. And they're also on this like, they're also in like a team of like CIA assassins. So they have a lot going on with their job. They're like risking their life on the daily. They're not really in a position to be starting a relationship. They're pretty deeply invested into their work. It's not a good time. Clearly, they have feelings for each other, right? So it's going to really frustrate your audience when you've built up this romance. Even if they've agreed to be friends, they clearly have unsettled feelings. If all of a sudden one of them is just in a relationship. If this season started and Kimiko was dating some random dude, people would equally be as annoyed. They'd be like, what? Yes, it does feel a little bit more forced that it's particularly a bisexual relationship. That makes it a little worse, right? If suddenly Kimiko was dating some random woman, it would feel just as forced, right? Like that does add a little bit because it feels especially like inauthentic because of that. But it just like amps up. 99% of it is because we care about this romance between Frenchie and Kimiko, or friendship, however you want to look at it. But clearly there's unsettled feelings. So no matter what, the audience is going to be annoyed when it just whatever, who cares about that? And then other romances in the show, like Huey and Starlight, what happened to that? They don't even like talk to each other. It's just like, oh yeah, oh well, good luck with your dad. It's tons of subplots have just been completely dropped and then replaced with like crappy ones, like ones no one cares about. The writing is objectively bad for that. There shouldn't be this kind of discourse around your show. Like somebody commented, like clearly you've done some bad writing here if people are genuinely confused by what you're doing with your show, right? Some mystery is good, and it's good to not answer every question that people have, but when you just remove multiple subplots as if they never mattered at all, and then just have all these new subplots, it's jarring. People aren't going to like it. Now, I like episode 4. I think that they're course correcting. I thought the first 3 episodes, like, what in the world are they doing? They've made some horrible mistakes. This is so badly written. You could do such a better job of this. Like this stuff with the Homelander being Trump and the MAGA people. It's so like, oh, they've already did it in previous seasons. It's so bad. Like even the left-wingers who are like, oh, they were making fun of right-wingers in previous seasons. Yeah, they were. And that's why it's bad. That's why it's so annoying. That's why people are frustrated with it still being there. Because it was overdone in season 3. It was annoying and not super realistic in season 3. So when they ramp it up in season 4, of course right-wingers or anyone with a rational thought in their head, I'm not a right-wing person, like me, I'm center, maybe a little bit right, they're going to be annoyed because it doesn't work. It's not entertaining. It's hokey. It's fluff. It's nonsense. It's like, please do something interesting. I get it. I get that some of the showrunners or whatever, or maybe one of the writers, really hates Donald Trump. But it's like, you know what people are really sick of? This anti-Trump stuff. No one, like, people are so sick of Trump. The guy has dominated the news for like a decade. We're tired of it. We don't need it in your show. And it's so bizarrely ignorant and demented to me that people don't even understand the entire purpose of the Sister Sage character and what she's doing. Because to me, she so clearly demonstrates in what she's doing that idolizing heroes and political sides is not the way to do it. It's specifically dividing people, and it's ultimately meaningless as these sides are the same, which she demonstrates perfectly when she exposes Starlight. Like, Starlight grew up in the pageant circuit, so yeah, she's kind of like an empty vessel actor, cares way more about her public image. You wouldn't have that type of reaction that she does unless you were incredibly concerned about your public perception, right? Like, Starlight is kind of just as vapid as Homelander, and a lot more like Homelander than she probably realizes. And that somehow the people watching the show realize. So, I don't know. I wish people would just think a little bit more before they form such annoying opinions about shows. And just please consider what Sister Sage is doing there as a character. Like, why is she there as a character? What is the show actually saying? It's so funny that people just immediately jump to political sides when viewing this show, when the show entirely right now is about how doing that is detrimental to humans, how it's dumb, and how you look like an idiot, how it's destroying you and your country.